Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, we got a special guest with us tonight. We'd like to welcome Thibault back to the show.
Hey, Dave, Ron. It's always a pleasure to be here with you guys. You guys are titans, the Pied Pipers in the community, I like to say.
The Pied Pipers. Anyway, this is episode 251 of the Digital to Dice podcast.
You mean the Vermont episode?
Is that the Vermont episode?
There are, in all seriousness, there's the 251 Club, which I guess you and I have just joined. And if you live in Vermont or visit Vermont, there are 251 cities and towns. And you can get those checked off like you would like a baseball card checklist. And so you can be a member of the 251 Club, which would be Vermont. So this is a Vermont episode.
Well, okay. I guess that's why you're here. That's why you're here.
Since I am in Vermont, that's why I'm here, yeah.
Anyway, what we're going to be talking about today is leaving the old neighborhood, speaking about getting around to 251 cities and towns. You know, it was brought up on Facebook, on our Facebook Digital to Dice Facebook page. And someone said, I've been playing a certain game my whole life, and I decided to try something new, and I don't know if I trust it or the whole bit. So we're going to be talking about leaving the old neighborhood, and that's why we brought Thibault on, someone who's played a lot of games for a long time, and what his thoughts are on playing some of the newer games. So that's why we brought on Thibault here. He's going to be our experts say. You know, when the experts say. So he's going to be our experts say, Ron.
You're too kind, David.
Anyway, ways to get a hold of us, digitaltodice.com is the website, digitaltodice.com. 978-751-DICE is the text line. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. So, before we get going into that, how about a quick what we're playing? What do you think, Ron?
Sure.
All right, well, we'll let our guest kick things off. Thibault, what have you been playing?
Oh, wow. I got to get to start first. Steroid era, of course. You know, I'm the big steroid era, the big monster, lifelong 39,000 game APA Master Game project. I'm playing the entire steroid era of baseball. 7,000 games into it, so don't snicker.
Now, what for people like me? What are those years?
They're 1988 through 2003.
Okay.
So 2003 is when they implemented the testing. They got pressured into starting the testing. In 88, of course, this Canseco had his monster year, the 40-40. So I wanted to kick it off with the Canseco year, and I'm going to end it with A-Rod and Palmero pointing fingers and stuff.
Now, what are you playing this with? Now, what game?
Oh, I'm playing with APA Master Game Baseball, just with you, the game du jour.
Nice.
And this morning, I had a monster game. I won't spend a lot of time, but Eric Davis stole home in the master game.
Oh, wow.
And it's a called steal. You know, like in the master game, you have to call your steals. And he had a 35 steal number, and you subtract 15, so it went down to 20. And you have to roll dice to see if he's pitching from the stretch. Yeah, that nullifies his attempt. But if he pitches from the windup, he could go. And I rolled the windup on my homebrew, and he went and he stole, and Reds won. And the Reds, I will always think of Ron's infamous game. That broke my heart, Ron. That 88 Reds. I will never play the 88 Reds without thinking of that game you played. That Red Sox game. Dewey Evans.
Oh.
So that's what I'm playing as.
So you doing 89? Is that where you are?
I'm at 88 right now. I'm on 88. Okay. I finished 87, and I'm up to 88. I'm going to go sequentially because it's kind of fun to see how teams change in their off season.
So how far along are you at 88?
I just started 88 National League. I'm it's like 100 games into it.
Okay.
So
yeah, nice. No, that Reds team is a fun team.
Yeah.
To play, except for when they're playing the Red Sox in Game 7 of the World Series.
That was painful.
It was.
Oh, my goodness.
There was one of them there, the one that went like 29 innings or something like that. I was actually out in the yard and I had my phone on. I was listening to the game with my headphones on while I was doing yard work, and it's like, boy, I got a lot of yard work here, and it was in the 9th inning. I was like, well, I guess that's that. And this game kept going and going, and it's like, oh, that's kind of good. It's giving me something to listen to while I was raking the leaves.
Yeah.
And I went a long time, and that game went a long time. I was like, I think I could actually get in and showered. The game was still going, you know.
It would have been, if it was a real game, the longest World Series game ever played to that point. It
Really?
would have only been broken by, what was it, Game 3 of the 2018 World Series, the one that ended at 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
The Red Sox and the Dodgers, because it was off the coast.
Yeah.
I think it went 5 hours and 40 minutes of cook time. So we figured that the game would have ended shortly around 2 o'clock that Sunday. Game 1 would have been at 2 o'clock that Sunday morning.
Oh, my goodness.
That was the one that Herm Whittingham tied in the 9th with a home run off of Lee Smith, who is no longer one of my favorite players of all time after that World Series, and was won on a walk-off sac fly in the 15th inning.
Oh, my goodness.
Crazy. Absolute. That if it wasn't for the fact that was the Red Sox that was in that World Series, I mean, clearly, of the 6 years that I've done this series of replays, that was the best World Series ever.
Oh, yeah. It went the longest. Didn't it go the longest of all your
That was my first 7th game.
There goes your hard drive again.
Yep.
That's Ron's. It's not a spaceship. It's not a drone.
It's not the drones.
It's not the drone.
Ron put his external hard drive next to his mic just so he could bug us.
No, I mean, it's been there for weeks. And
What do you download? Whose OnlyFans page are you downloading?
Mimi's. No, I think it's just old. The microphone isn't even facing that, which is the crazy thing. The microphone is facing me.
And now it's landing.
That's right.
It's hilarious.
The drone has landed and says that my extended car warranty is expired.
So speaking about the Appa Master, Thibault, of course, I've been playing that and enjoying the heck out of it, really. And the very first game I played of Appa Master, I had a guy on second base, and he met the criteria to steal.
Yeah.
And I tried to steal third, and I rolled, and he stole it, and I was like, "That is the
fun?
It was, because it's something that doesn't naturally happen in the basic game, or if it does, it's very rare. And so, I like to do a lot of bunting. I like to do a lot of stealing. I play a lot of small ball when I play. Just how I play. Again, as Al says, there's no wrong way to play. And that was my first experience with the Appa Master game, my very first game. And I says, oh, man.
Yeah.
So the Appa Master, for me, it fills in all the gaps that the basic doesn't have.
Yeah.
And I love the basic game. I do. I was late to the Appa party by like 50 years, but I like the Appa basic game. But I will say that, the Master game, and we can talk about this real quick today, and then we'll get into a bigger discussion another time. There was this whole mystique and controversy about the Master game, about, oh, you can't play it, it's too busy, it's too difficult, this and that. And I just by watching your videos, you kind of like clarified everything in the book and the whole bit. And so when I played my first game, just after watching a few of your videos, I was like, this is not difficult. It is not fast. It's not like the basic game, because you are looking at numbers and this and that and the whole bit. But for crying out loud, I mean, the rap that it gets for being too difficult to play. Now, I can't speak for, because people are like, oh, you spend all this extra time. Are you really getting different results in the whole bit? I can't speak for that. I want to do a test, actually. I want to roll dice and then play basic, and alongside it play Master using the same dice rolls to see what the results would be. I don't even know if that would work, because, again, if I'm running bases manually, that might change things. But that's an experiment I might do offline one time, is play basic and use the same rolls for Master to see what kind of different results I get, because that's the first thing that people say is, well, you're spending all this extra time and you're not really getting any different results. That may be true.
Yeah.
However, when we tried to talk to Jeff the other night, and, it was bad connection, whatever, but he's saying the same thing. He's like, man, I had to play at the plate. Mm-hmm. And you don't get that in basic. In the Master, you roll the dice or to play at the plate. You roll the dice. Again, Dwight Evans matters.
Right.
Dwight Evans in right field will take away that runner going the third or runner going home.
Yeah.
Mickey Rivers with that arm of, 27 or something like that.
27, yeah.
I will run on him no matter if he's playing third base. I'll try to get to third base. His arm is so bad.
Is that the proverbial ramen noodle arm that I talk about?
Yeah. Candy arm,
Yeah, because Ron, what it is in at least the I forget what year I was playing, 78, 79, 80, one of the two. So Dwight Evans in right field has an arm of 39, okay?
Yeah.
And Mickey Rivers, I think he has a 27. So that's 12 difference. So what that means in layman's terms is out of the 36 chances
36.
on 11 to 66. That's what you're rolling. There's 36 chances. So out of that 36, you have 12 more chances right off the bat if Mickey Rivers is in the outfield compared to Dwight Evans. And that's almost a 11 that's a third or a quarter or 25% more, whatever that number is. It's a big chunk so that's going to decide whether and that's for the first game I play. It's like, Dwight Evans, nope, stop in a second.
In Strat, it's all based on a 20-sided die.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's the same thing,
Evans is a -5, so I think Evans and Roberto Clemente had -6s, I think, is the best that Strat's ever given in that. And Rivers probably has a positive arm. So you take that runner's rating and you either add or subtract based on and then roll. Yeah. So it pretty much is the same thing for Strat. Yeah. It's down to 5%, and it sounds like for APA it's 2.6%. Per number. It's
just really fun because you get the number of where the hit went, and then you look at the fielder's arm and the runner's speed, and that's how many chances you get. And sometimes you get like 38 chances, which means it's an automatic base, because you have more than 36. Sometimes you get 35 out of 36 chances. The only way to throw you out is with a 66.
You roll a double six.
Yeah. So
you can control it too. Like in basic, it's kind of like someone's stealing when they're up like 15 runs. They're still stealing bases, which wouldn't happen in real life. But Master, you could kind of call it off, call off the dogs, so to say.
Yeah. What do you think it is, just real quick, without getting too deep into it? What do you think the whole the controversy or the hubbub is about the Master baseball game in APA?
It takes a little bit of time to appreciate. That's what I would say. Like if you're straight basic and you go look at that Master book, and it actually happened to me. When I bought the Master game in 1996. I looked at those big boards and those rolls and those charts when I was playing basic for 20 years up to that point. I was like, no way. I was like, this is way too many numbers, and I'm into the quick app, like the basic. Not until you kind of say, well, I'm going to give it a chance. You really have to sit down and give it an opportunity to shine. And it's going to take a few games. You caught on really fast, though, Dave. I mean, you caught on like abnormally fast.
It's weird because I just watched your videos and I was just like, okay. I was really concerned about how many times something's going to change. It's like every time I roll the dice, the pitcher's going to change it, and that's what I thought it'd be a slog down with that. But there's only so many numbers that you check, and so okay, that's the first hurdle. Now I know if I roll a 22, I'm not checking the pitcher. I'm only checking on certain numbers, and then so you get over that hurdle, and then you realize, well, if nobody on base, it plays pretty much like basic. If there's nobody on base, and then it's only when people get on base that you start to really look at all the fielding numbers, and it is intimidating at first because you see a ton of numbers there, and then then you sometimes you have to read on the results. So as soon as you think you got it, you're like, if he's a lefty, he's hitting the right field, not left field. So all that I just read, I got to ignore and look at the next set of numbers, And at first I was like, man, that's just too much. But then I was like, something that adds all the variety to the game. Now the players matter. Lefty batters matter. Righty batters matter. Not all the time, but once in a while. And I really like that. You got your pull hitters, your straightaway hitters. Mm-hmm. And all those little symbols on the MasterCard come into play, and it just gives you enough variety. Because, again, a hit to left is a lot different than a hit to right, if you're trying to get to third base and things like that. So that's what I find, that it adds more to the game. It takes more time to read along the thing and figure out what you're going to do. But I think it's like Jeff said, it's more baseball. Yeah, it's more baseball, and it makes it fun. And especially after playing the football game, the APA football game, that's such a fun game, and you get so much football in that that's what the Master Baseball feels like. It feels like when you play APA Basic, it feels like a drive-by-drive game. It just plays that fast.
Yeah.
And when you play the Master game, it feels like you're playing more of a full play football game when you play Master.
One thing when you play each of those games, Basic and Master, is Basic is almost like you're the fan in the stands. I think I mentioned this one of our talks, but it's almost like you're the guy with the beer and the hot dog watching the game. Basic, because it just plays itself. Now Master, the thing I like about it is it's almost like you're the player. So like I'm Dwight Evans deciding where I'm going to throw. Like I'm the players now versus just the manager or the guy watching the game. I'm actually on the field playing the game with the guys. Because I could decide what base I want to throw to. If I'm the third, I could be the third base coach and decide to send the guy or not.
Yeah.
And that's the fun part.
Well, the thing I loved about the Basic is that I was the guy in the stands. Is that I was not making the decisions, and a lot of times I don't like to make decisions. I like just to play it out. And maybe it's just part of maturing as a gamer. And Ron and I do shows all the time about evolving and maturing as a gamer. That I'm enjoying. Even with the football game now. Like I used to play the football games where you roll the dice and everything was automatic. And I still like those games. In APA, you're calling the plays now, at least on offense, and that makes it kind of fun. It's like, okay, can I make this happen? And before I didn't like that. And the Master Baseball game's the same way. It's like, well, why it takes me a long time to play is I look at every scenario. If I get runners on first and second and I'm hit to the outfield, I look at what that number is and I figure out the fielder and the runner and what every scenario is. If I can get the extra base or not, is it worth it? And where am I going to throw it if I decide to run? So for me, I probably spend time on things I don't need to, so to speak. But that's what does make it fun.
Well, one thing about that too, that this is a similar to Inside Pitch, is that only comes up a few times a game too. So it's not like it's every single dice roll that you have that decision to throw runners at different bases. It's like a 2 to 5 times a game, maybe. It's not every time, and that's like what the Inside Pitch guy says. Like this only comes up a few times. We know it's complex, but don't let it deter you from Master games. What I'm saying.
As an outsider, the lure of APA Basic is it plays quick, and baseball players do tend to play in series as opposed to one game at a time, and B, you memorize it so fast.
Yeah.
When I play, you always know that a 31 is a fly ball to center. Now, it may change when there's runners on and stuff like that, but a 13's a strikeout and a 31's a fly out to center. And so you just kind of get used to it and into it. And so when you go, no, we're going to use the same cards, but we're going to introduce a lot more gameplay decisions into it, I could see where that would be a turnoff. That's where the whole impetus for replay came from. Was to give that there, and so I'm delighted that Dave has embraced that, because it can be a lot of fun. As someone who plays offline a lot of Strat Super Advanced, I don't want to turn this into an APA versus a Strat thing. There's the decisions there, but the computer simplifies that a great deal. So to pop up on the screen, okay, you got it, you got -2 arm there, but there's 2 out, so you're adding 2 to that, and what do you want to do? And as you've seen me say a lot in the Action PC stuff, okay, you got a 78% chance of scoring here, taking an extra base, and I'll say, especially that runner's thrown out, 78 isn't 100.
Yeah.
And so you can get mad that you made the wrong decision, or that, or, I think one of the calling cards for any of these super advanced cards and dice games or Master, you see where the results come from.
Right.
You know what happened. And it can also go, okay, so let's say Dwight Evans has a 35 out of, you can't score on Evans, but you need that run anyway. So what is it? He throws them out on a 35 of 11 to 65.
Well, it's 11 to 66 roll, and somewhere along the line you determine what the safe number is. So if it's 18, that's half. So 11 to 33, he's safe.
Yeah.
Right. So you can get that. If you roll the 33 that he's safe, or the 34, you can imagine in your head Carlton Fisk reaching over to make the tag, walking the plate. I mean, it's the whole storytelling, visualizing thing that we talked about.
Yeah, when you roll 11 or 12, it's like it wasn't even close. He scores easy,
throw,
you know. And
throw was up the line. And,
so it does tell a story. And I just like that I can play both now. I can play the basic and be the guy, in the stands, and I can play, the master and make decisions. And there is something like the football game, just so satisfying when you make the right call.
Yeah.
When you're like, man, I only got to, 20, I got to roll 11 to 22 to score here. I'm going to send this guy, and you roll that 15 and he scores, and you're like, oh man, that was just such a gutsy call and it worked out, and it just makes it fun. It really does.
Amateur baseball teams do not consider Dave Gardner to be your third base coach.
No, definitely not. But it is fun. So we'll get back with more of that. So I've been playing some Appa Master there. I don't think I've played anything. Oh, I did play a little bit of Game-Winning Drive. I don't know. I got the itch to. I picked up 1977 for Appa Football. And I also picked it up in Game-Winning Drive because I was like, well, I don't have time to play a full game, but I said I want to play 77. So I banged out a couple of games of Game-Winning Drive, 1977 season. That's still a fun game. I think it's still one of my favorite Downey games is Game-Winning Drive. So that's what I've been playing. Check it. How about yourself?
By 1956, replay started. We started with a doubleheader on Monday from the world champion Brooklyn Dodgers and the Philadelphia Phillies, and then the Yankees and the Senators, or Nationals. I'm 50 one way, half dozen the other. And Brooklyn walked it off over Philadelphia. Carl Ferrella put one off the scoreboard in the ninth inning. All those old stadiums have these really, really tall walls. Fenway's really the only one left that has the tall wall. Brooklyn's got like a 25-foot wall in right field. And Washington's got a 25-foot wall in right field and all that. So they literally put those places into a block. Yeah. And today I did Pittsburgh and the Giants from the Polo Grounds.
Oh, wow.
So
that pirate team stinks.
Pirate team stinks, and Willie Mays homered.
Nice.
So it's the first replay I've done with Willie Mays. I'm kind of looking forward to that. And so to kind of get back to, I can't believe my year 76 baseball tournament kind of is going the way it is, Dave. So the 97 win Yankees, the first three games against the absolutely crappy Washington Senators. We did the opening day game on the channel, and Washington's bullpen is non-existent. I mean, they're all absolutely horrible. So first three games of the season, because I've sibbed ahead a day for tomorrow's stream, and the Senators swept the Yankees 3 straight in Washington. So again, it can happen in any time. And you look at those teams. I mean, Mickey Mantle's a Triple Crown winner in 56. However, I don't think that Whitey Ford pitched well in Washington because I don't think Casey Stengel used him. But anyway, just one of those crazy things. Like, nope, they're going to play 22 times this year, and I doubt Washington beats them 6. But in the standings, when I show them tomorrow in the middle of the fourth inning, the Senators are in first place at 3-0.
When did I bought 69. For Apple, because I wanted to play the Pilots. And again, my baseball knowledge is pretty fuzzy before 1975, to be honest with you. And I didn't realize that there were 4 expansion teams that year. I did that, and I'm learning that now. I didn't realize that. And so it was San Diego, Kansas City, Montreal, and Seattle. So those are the 4 teams. So the Washington Senators were already in the league at that point. How long did they play? What was their existence?
They were the original Senators, or Nationals, played there until 1960. They moved to Minnesota to become the Twins. And there was an expansion team right away that went and became the new Washington Senators. And they played until 1971.
Yes, 1 or 2 or 3.
1 or 2. And they are now.
Ed Williams was coaching that team, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, he was a manager. Yeah.
Yeah, and they became the Texas Rangers.
Oh, they became the Rangers.
And so, they're still the Texas Rangers. The Senators were, and the second Senators were developed much too fast, never really had stable ownership. By the time that they got some money to develop players and such, Bob Short on the team, and Bob was not a native of the D.C. area. He was, I believe, from Dallas.
Looks like it was 72. That's when Texas joined.
Right. So So I was born in November of 71, and so baseball was out of Washington by the time that I was born. And so I was kind of, as much as I miss the Montreal Expos, I'm as someone who covered the Nationals, I'm happy that DC has baseball again. But that's the deal. So Washington is, I believe, the first city to have 3 different franchises in the modern era.
Interesting.
And they finally won that World Series. And you never talk to anyone who grew up an Expos fan and say that the Nationals are the same team, because I made that.
That just makes them angry.
Oh, it makes them beyond angry.
Oh, yeah.
The same way, if you say,
me too.
I can understand that. But Gary Carter's number was up in DC, and nope, that is not our history.
Oh, yeah, I can see how they do that.
Expos uniforms a couple years ago. Remember that, Ron, on the Nationals of Throwback Day, and that was even painful to watch. Like, it was Max Scherzer was wearing the Expos, like he was pitching.
I mean, the Expos were. I mean, obviously, growing up a Red Sox fan, I never minded the Expos. I've grown to like the Mets over the years, but not in the mid-80s. But so I never minded the Expos. I was sad when they left, but to see them, that it's kind of like watching those Carolina Hurricanes in the Hartford Whalers uniforms, or the Colorado Avalanche going out there and weeks.
It looks nice for a minute, but then you're like, get mad about them leaving.
We to finish this up. There was when Dave came up to visit all those years ago, we went to a coffee shop that's no longer there, that closed, and it became another coffee shop. And we went about 3 or 4 months after the new place opened. And I don't know if you've ever gone back to your old high school or something like that, or some place where you spent a lot of time. Maybe it was a place you grew up, and it was drastically changed from there. It's like, nope, this is no longer my place.
Yeah.
And my wife and I don't go to that other coffee shop. Yeah. Same physical location, but it wasn't our place. So I
swing by my old high school once in a while, but
Did you pick up some chicks?
Get the digits, the nice groupies.
Does Morrison come with you? So.
Oh boy.
Camaro.
Yeah. I guess the new sound effects on here I wanted to try out. Anyway, all right. What do you think? So we get to the topic at hand?
Sure.
All right, here we go. All righty. So we're setting this up here. Talking about leaving the old neighborhood is kind of the title we're running with here. And it's, if you played a game for a long time, maybe you've only played one game for a long time, then you say, what's some of these new games? The payoff pitch is somewhat new. Pocket pennant run, somewhat new. I don't know if you would consider, inside pitch.
That's a new generation game.
So I guess
season tickets and all that.
Yes. So I think what we're kind of looking at here is, so I guess we'll just call it Apostrat and Status Pro are kind of the older games, right? That people have been playing for a long time, and then you get into the newer games. Now, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years, or even 12 to 15 years, it's still considered new compared to some of the old ones. So that was the question. So someone's played one particular game. He didn't allude to what it was for a long time. He says, I want to try something new here, but I don't know about it. So Thibault, you played a lot of these older games, but you also tried the newer games too. So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I went 25 years on APA Basic, just straight APA Basic from like 1980 to 2005, I want to say.
Did Keith Russell camp in your house at that point or whatever?
He's, dearly departed Keith. He's probably on game number 49,000.
Eddie, I'm sorry to cut you off, but go ahead.
That's good. That's a good point. A lot of our viewers probably know exactly what you're talking about, too. Because he's a legend.
Oh, he is.
But yeah, I mean, I even remember when I first got into some new stuff, because it was actually 2005. YouTube videos weren't, I mean, it's not like what it is today with all these games and people showing games and like playthroughs and all that stuff. A lot of it was like the forums, I think, the Delphi forums, the Strat forum or whatever. I read about Ringo. You guys probably know Replay.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Ringo and Replay. He was getting into Replay, and I just loved his posts, like his projects he was doing. And I took a chance on replay, and it was a new game, and I loved it. It didn't totally overtake Appa on my stable, but I still love it. It's probably like my second biggest collection, and it was really it's something different. Like these guys are thinking, like this guy that mentioned you, Dave. He's like, I want to try something different. I think you just everybody's looking for variety in life, and and there are some guys out there which I find amazing. Is these guys like Ringo, for example, they just play the one game and that's it. They don't deviate at all to other games. I mean, they maybe have played them, but they just stick with one game.
So I guess the thing is so this guy's been playing this game for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Obviously, he likes it. He's happy with the results, and now he's like, I want to try this newer game, whatever the game is, Game X. Okay, it's a newer game. It's somewhat new, and he starts playing it, and he's probably pretty leery because he's used to hit the way he does it. The engine's probably very different.
Yeah.
And, maybe the results are different too. And maybe he's sitting there saying, I just don't think I can trust this game like I trust the one I've been with for 20 years.
Yeah.
Here's where I would go with that. So you got these newer generation of games, and we all have our wheelhouse for seasons. So, so obviously most games release a modern season, which I know for you, Dave, would be kind of a tough to say, here's this new game. Actually, you have that in Pursuit the Pennant. Mm-hmm. And we'll give you 2023 to go along with it. And so you're learning to play a new game, and you have cards or data of players that you don't know who they are. Team names you're going to recognize, but Aaron Judge you might be able to pick out of a lineup. But that would be about it. And so you're trying out a new game, and you're trying out players that you're not quite familiar with. And you may not necessarily read a lot about other people playing that game or see videos of that. I'll give you a good example. I picked up Strat basketball in college and put it away for the better part of 30 some odd years. And I went to look for a video on playing Strat basketball. And you know what? Dave S. had one on Strat Basic.
Yeah.
He does good one.
But there was no videos on YouTube on Strat Super Advanced Basketball, which would be the computer version, which is why I bought the game and ended up loving it. But again, if you don't, Strat has, of course, a variety of seasons. But if I'm personally looking at a game where I'm not sure, I haven't seen any videos on it, and they may not have anything that's in my comfortable wheelhouse. Because I think if you're going to try a new game, you want something that you're intimately familiar with.
Yeah.
As a season, because we all have to learn how to trust whatever it is that we're playing if we're going to put that in the rotation. But if you're feeling kind of like it's a foreign object to begin with when you play, you're going to be less inclined to trust it. As opposed to, okay, let's put the $79 on the table. Let's put Dan Fouts on the table. Okay, I can see this, and I get used to it. So, I'm going to go back to a story you told me. First time you pulled out Strat Hockey, and we're doing the basic. We did the basic up here, the same trip, and you went down there and you pulled out Quebec and Hartford.
I had ordered, I bought a used copy, and I brought the used copy up to you, and we were playing 1979 Pittsburgh Toronto. I mean, that's what came with the game.
Four teams that came with the game in Pittsburgh and Toronto.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Don't get excited, Thibault. We played the 79 Penguins. Okay?
So I think we only played a few minutes, and I was just like, all right, I'm getting the hang of it, I guess.
Yeah.
I at first I didn't know what was going on, but, we got through it. And so I actually ordered the game, and I think I ordered a season. But while waiting for it to come in, they send you the extra teams. So I printed out, two of the extra teams, Quebec and Hartford, I think it was.
Yeah.
And so I was able to play a game that night because they had emailed me the teams. And, boy, that was still one of the most favorite games I've ever played. Even in basic mode was a fun time.
You got what? Gilled Thibault score or get stopped?
It was
at the siren.
Hartford was up 1-0, and the goaltender, I forget his name now for Hartford, stopped Joe Sakic on a breakaway. And then they had the face-off in the zone. Goalie pulled, and there wasn't even any cards left. It was just, the face-off. And Quebec won it. got a shot on net, and the rebound went to Guy Lafleur. And Guy Lafleur had a 1-18 chance on a rebound to tie the game. No, 1-16, and I rolled an 18. And he was stopped by Mario Lassard or whoever the goalie was for the Whalers. But that was my first ever full Strat game. I still got the notes here on my desk from that game. I saw them the other day, too. And, so that was my very first time playing a full game of Strat, and it was a blast. It really was.
That was also your first full play game of any kind. You had done the shootout.
I think you're right. Yep.
And so talk about, finding that next neighborhood down, maybe in that case for you. And so, I mean, some of the things I think, people are leery about is, do they have a season I'm comfortable with? Does it look complicated when I watch? And the more familiar that we become with games, and Thibault can tell you this from his extensive experience with Appa basketball.
Shots fired.
That was
that the more familiar, in all seriousness, the more familiar you become with any game, the harder it is to sit there and slow down and explain the game. I mean, that's one of the things I think that Thibault did really well with the Appa Master game that Dave was able to pick up on, was that he was able to follow it. But Dave also was familiar with how the basic game works.
Yeah.
Which is the case. And so, but yes, I mean, you're going to look to say, okay, season ticket football, which Clay Justlock just did the open beta for. And so that was a new game to all of us. Mm-hmm. And it was a system that I guess the D6 and the D10s are something he uses in season ticket baseball, which I haven't played. But it's a new gaming system to all of us that did that. And so it was, I mean, the first time that we tried it, Dave, it was...
We were completely lost with that game because you're rolling a D6 and a D10 to get a number between 10 and 69, which is really different than any game we've played.
Right.
And then the second D10 is the blue one. That's the one that's the key die, because that's going to, you're going to compare that to a rating to see if you get pass or check. So you're going to get either rating A or rating B. If you pass the check, you get the better rating for that particular player or team. So we were kind of lost with that for a while. It took us a while to get used to that engine.
That's figured out, and we would see people doing the beta again. He gave so many seasons of that for people to try that it was obviously in someone's wheelhouse. Talking about Trust the Game, they posted their stats after so many games that they had played for a specific season against the real stats, and they were they weren't bang on, but they were within the bell curve, that 5%. And
they were pretty spot on. They were.
You learn to trust it that way. So I think today, it's see other people do it and see what they get.
Well, we did that at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Thibault. I pulled out season ticket, and I showed you guys how to roll a couple of plays, and what was it? 2 minutes later, I was talking to someone else, and you guys were through half the game because you picked it up so fast.
Yeah, you kind of let us go. You played like 10 plays, and we just started playing. Remember, it was amazing. We just picked that guy. That guy's really clever, I think. Clay, with his games. His games have a very high-end feel. I think, Ron, you probably know, that he put a lot of testing into baseballs before he came to market. I just seemed like he was out there, and he really did a good job with that, I thought.
And that's another thing, is that a lot of newer games, you're not sure how much. I'm not going to mention the games I know that weren't properly tested, but I think it's one of the concerns that before you go and spend all your hard-earned money into buying a game, the number one question we get, is it accurate?
Yeah.
And the question that should be asked is, how much was this tested?
Yeah.
To see what you get. Is it plausible? Is it realistic? And with Clay's games, of course, the first time we had him on, Dave, was it Tony La Russa or Hardball he was part of that team for?
Oh, boy, I forget now. Yeah,
Clay's been working on computer baseball games for the better.
Yeah, you can tell when he plays games, so he knows the game.
Right, and so sure, he brings out something, and again, absolutely, I don't think that the baseball game had the open testing the way that the football game did, but yeah, I mean, he got people to do, and he did his own homework too. When we had him on not too long ago. Behind him on the wall were all these charts and graphs. And it had to do with probability for certain plays in the baseball game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was baseball stats. It was like, I can tell you, I can turn around my wall and tell you how many triples, people had, when there's men on base. It was pretty, it just wasn't thrown together. This was a lot of deep thought went into it, so.
Yeah.
And so I suppose that would be the number one trust thing, is how much confidence does the game designer put with it.
One other thing I thought about here too is we've talked over the years with many different people, and there's some people that have played games for a long time, and they move on to a different game, and they get frustrated with it. And we've talked to them, and they're like, "Well, it doesn't do this." No, it's because it's not the game that you've been playing for 20 years, and it doesn't do this. Again, it's not the game you play. And so it's like they leave an old game,
right.
And it's almost like you watch football for so many years, and you watch hockey. It's like, how come it's only worth 1 point? And how come no one's kicking the puck, and how come no one's calling timeout? And it's two different sports. So sometimes you get someone that plays a new game, and all they do is find fault with the game because it doesn't do what their old game did.
Yeah. That's correct.
Yeah,
and they don't like also how people are graded too. Maybe they don't like Apple. One of the big people don't like the ABCD. That's too generic. But then you get like the master game, which is you get 30 grades. So there's give and take in all those games too. There's pluses and minuses. We got talked about that a lot. There's pluses and minuses to all these games.
Absolutely.
A lot of it's like how much immersion you want too. That's another thing, is how some people may see Inside Pitch or Appa Master Baseball and say that base running is not worth my time. But other people may love it, like me and Dave. We think that's awesome.
I think it just adds so much to the game. And the thing is, you can play basic. You can play basic all day long. It's like, okay, I get the hit, and the guy tells you exactly what happens. And that's what I love about basic. It tells you exactly what happens. You don't have to think about it. I do like that. But in the master game, it's like, here's where the ball's hit. Now you figure it out. Here are the numbers. Here's the speed, the arm, and here's where the ball was hit. And this is how many chances you get. It's up to you if you want to run that. And I do get my fun out of that, and that's why I like to play both. I think I'm leaning more towards master now. But, if I was just wanted to bang out a quick game, I would play basic. I would. But I have seen that with people like, well, I don't like this game because it does it this way, or it doesn't do that, But again,
I hate to make it. I mean, I'll mention a pause because I'm going to say something positive about. But History Maker, something like History Maker Baseball. When you look at, if you're coming from APA or Strat, where it's all numbers based, and you go to History Maker, and you're seeing like Sad Sack or Whiffer, and you're getting kind of like antsy about it. And you could. People look at that. I could tell you for years I looked at that game and I was like, that's way too generic, not for me. Until we ate with Keith at Akron or Canton. Yeah. And I saw how much a class act this guy was, and just talking to him. And I came home from Canton and bought History Maker Baseball, and I tried it new. I tested the waters like we're talking about, and I thought it was fun. I thought I enjoyed it. And I never, ever thought I would enjoy History Maker Baseball just from seeing it. And because, the Chicago White Sox were so bad, and he sold that one set. It was like the season set, the 2024 before it was for anybody. And I played a White Sox game, and they blew it at the very end. They were winning the game, and it was like, this is so awesome. Like, this White Sox team, it loses every game. And History Maker replicated that. And it was fun. So
I also think that this generation of game designers are much more approachable. Than Hal was with Strat. And Sites with Appa and that. And so if you have a question about one of these second gen or third generation games, chances are, if you're polite about it, it's going to get answered. I've been talking with someone offline about something that they want to see if Digital Diamond can do, and I couldn't give them a specific answer on that, but I gave them the email for the company and said, ask. Ask them. They're going to get back to you and tell you, and if you can't do it now, they may make that feature or whatever it is you're looking for, if it's within the realm of the game, I'm sorry, the 24 White Sox are never going to be a 500 team, no matter how much you ask. It may get added. And I think that most of these designers understand that people now play a variety of different games. Dave Cook talks about, I understand that people are playing this, that, and the other thing. I mean, when we had Keith on, didn't realize that he pretty much could do APA football in a sleep, you know, and so there's a lot more understanding now that you're sharing the marketplace as opposed to owning your own section of the marketplace, if you will.
Right.
The other thing, when you talk about the History Maker baseball and then even the APA Basic, talk APA Basic, how the pitcher's A, B, C, D, and then you got the History Maker baseball where it's the qualities and there's no numbers. And, people have, they prejudge the games and this and that and the other thing. But it's always been a case of even pocket pennant run to another degree. That come on the scene a couple of years ago. I still enjoy playing that game. It's a fun, fast, easy baseball game. So easy to play. And, people are kind of all over that game. So when I look at those three games as my example, a lot of people are like, well, this and that and the other thing, and just kind of picking them apart. And then it's like, well, play it. Not one, not two. Play a whole bunch of games, and let's see what you get. And there was a couple of people that played a ton of pocket pennant, and their results were pretty darn close. Yeah. For a game like that, which has very basic ratings, but it's very fun, and I think that's where that niche is perfect for that game. I love playing that game for certain reasons. But you still get the results that are in the ballpark. APA, the basic games, it doesn't feel like the pitchers really do anything, but if you play enough games, they kind of do. Yeah. And even in the football game, the APA football game, you get some really fantastic defenders who are rated 5, which is as high as you can go, and it's like, are they individually helping the game or not? Well, yeah, I guess, in a way, at the end of the day, they are, because the defense is built in. And so, and the same with the History Maker baseball. It's like, play a bunch of games. And I haven't played it much, but I've heard that the results are pretty good with History Maker baseball. So all three games that I just mentioned, you can prejudge all day long and pick them apart and say everything that's wrong with it. But at the end of the day, if you were to play a season out, you would be pretty close. From what I hear, you would be pretty darn close to what actually come out in real life.
Yeah, I mean, cool thing about Keith, he sells that baseball card rating guide. So you could actually, and I thought this was so fun. When I bought the baseball game, you could buy this little booklet that tells you if you want to just take some baseball cards and you have in your attic and pick a player, look at their stats, and I'm going to tell you what the ratings are going to be based on that baseball card you have. And you could just play like a game with your baseball cards. And if you think about replays, and I've done enough of them, you're going to see some variance. You're going to see some guys spot on, some guys. This is APA Master Game too, which you probably would think be very precise. Some guys are way out of whack. Like I had Ichiro in 2006. He couldn't hit over 260. And he's like a 320 hitter. You're going to have crazy stuff like that happen in replays.
Anything you use a random number generator, whether it's a card and dice game or a computer game, you want to have those results. Yeah. Look at last year in my 88 replay, Oakland, I believe, finished 22 games worse in the standings than they did in real life. I think they won the division by 13, and I think they lost it by 9.
Oh, wow.
You're going to have it. And if everything was, if you want precision, there's the reference sites. You can go read, get all of that for you. And so I think that some of the variety is there. And at the end of the day, more is going to be right than it is wrong. I'll use, because I've seen this in 2 different game engines, the 78 Kansas City Chiefs. I did it my first year in Action PC football, and Al did it in Pro Strategy football with a 2024 version. That team lost 10 games by 3 points or less or something like that. They were terrible. They couldn't complete a pass to save their life. At one point, they're running a single wing formation in the NFL in modern times. Okay, you can't do anything with them. I got that team to the wild card game. I think Al got him to the AFC divisional game.
You did too, yeah.
Yeah, that's what he did. They lost their wild card game for me, and so again, I'm not going to say the math is wrong with that, and you shouldn't go, "Oh, I'll never play that game because the Miami Dolphins of '72 only won 10 as opposed to 14." The randomness of how results are generated is truly random.
Well, that's why you play the games, is to see what your result's going to be. If you played any particular game and the results came out 100% accuracy every time, you wouldn't play it. It's like, why bother? If I'm going to hit the exact score and the exact standings every single time.
What was the engine that you did the Bruins-Rangers final?
I did it in a couple. I did Hockey Bones and Appa.
Well, it was Hockey Bones was the one that originally had you questioning, and then we spent some time doing it. And I think I ran that in Action PC. I don't think I had that season in Strat. You did it in APA and got the same result, and I ran it in Action PC and got the same result. And we looked at closer. It was like, oh, well, the Bruins were very power play heavy, and Jean Rattel scored on 24% of his shots.
Yeah, if you didn't get a lot of power plays with the Bruins, then you weren't going to win the game, and that's just kind of how it went.
And so if you're going through, and if that's your wheelhouse year, and going, I'm a Bruins fan from '72, and I picked up this game, and why can't they do it? We just did it in 4 different games, and the results were the same. The Rangers beat them every time.
Well, the 76 Buccaneers, who was my favorite team to play, 0-14, they only lost a handful of games. I mean, they lost a handful of games by 1 score.
Right.
And even in 77, I've been kind of following along their 77 season. The Vikings only beat them like 9-0 or 9-3 or something like that. And the Vikings were a good team in 77. So there's a lot of games that their defense kept them in it. So it wouldn't be uncommon to play the Buccaneers in 76 and have them beat either Miami or Buffalo or the Saints. Well, they didn't play the Saints. But, any of the bad teams in the AFC, they could have beat them. And I think they played the Seahawks, the other expansion team. They lost again by 1 score. So there's a handful of games that they could have won. So if they would have come out of that season instead of 0-14, if they come out 3-11 or 4-10, it wouldn't be crazy. 14-0, yeah, that's not right, and the whole bit. But yeah, so I mean, like Ron said, that's a weird team to play the 78 Chiefs, but they lost so many close games. If they had won some of those, and it wouldn't take too many rolls of the dice to pull them across the finish line and something like that. The other thing I want to bring up here in the newer games is the rare plays.
Yeah.
Do you think that like an old school player with one of the older games without the rare plays is going to look at that and I give my favorite example of rare plays. One of the first times I really ran into a rare play was season ticket baseball, and I was playing the Dodgers against somebody, and it was Ron Say.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I got a rare play for Ron Say, and I looked up the rare play, and it was it's hit into center field. The center fielder hits the wall, and it was either unconscious or hurt or whatever. And so the rare play was the player gets to third base. He can try for home for an inside the park home run. Why not? I'm like, how often am I going to get here? I'm going to try it. So I got Ron Say, who doesn't have a lot of speed, and I forget which outfielder was going to throw the ball. I don't know if the other fielder come over to pick it up. But however the play worked out, I looked at the arm, rolled my dice, compared the speed, and Say barely get in there for the inside the park home run. And I thought that was one of the coolest things ever. And a lot of people were upset at that. And they were like, there's no way that would happen. That game is so unrealistic and this and that. And blah, blah. I said, it was a rare play.
Yeah, right.
And if I hit the ball and the center fielder hits the wall and gets knocked out, I'm probably going to score on the play. Just because of the amount of time it takes the other guys to get over there and get the ball in. Just about anybody could score on that. So that's why I said, look, it's a rare play, and that's what made that fun. And I still talk about that. If it was a triple, I wouldn't talk about it.
I've talked about this before. I watched Bill Buckner in 1990 when he came back to the Red Sox, hit an inside the park home run. He's running around the bases in a walker at that point because he was so slow, and it was probably something similar to the Say situation. But yeah, Bill Buckner in 1990 with his mobility scooter is getting an inside the park home run in real life. Then yeah, Ron Say can do that. Would I want him to do it every night? No.
Yeah. So Thibault, what do you think? How do you think some of the old school players will react to games with rare plays now?
Well, I mean, a lot of the old school like Strat has rare plays. I mean, not as
No,
like,
they're not. No, they don't.
not like yeah, it's a same rare play you get all the time too.
Oops, he went out.
Oh boy, Thibault left us here. So I want to.
I'll answer the rare player thing because I really don't like them.
Okay.
But in Action PC, I don't necessarily mind them because they don't happen too often. But in Cards and Dice, when I'm playing a certain game that has them, I ignore them. I do. But
I do. Sometimes in the football game, they come up a lot. Apple football, they come up a lot. And there was a nice little system somebody come up with that you play the first rare play, and either in the game or the half, you could decide which. And then after that, you roll the dice to figure out what you're going to do for the next rare play. And sometimes it's a one side or the other calls a timeout. Sometimes you just go ahead with another rare play. Sometimes you just re-roll, and sometimes you go to another game. I think he said like second season. He pulls out the second season rare play chart and goes with that. And so that's an interesting way around it. But yeah, sometimes too many rare plays is too many. I agree with that. I do think, though, when you add or factor in rare plays into a game, I think what it does is it just gives it a little bit more depth. You know what I mean? It gives it. I'm trying to find the right word for it. It gives you some. It gives you some rare plays. It gives you rare plays. You know, you're going to be able to do some things in a game that the regular game doesn't allow for. So it's going to allow some rare things that happen in baseball games or football or hockey, whatever it is, to now happen in your game that couldn't before.
Yeah, they're fun. I mean, I enjoy them. I like them. I was thinking replay. They actually have a dead ball specific rare plays. They even like it specific to the era, which I think is really cool. It has all kinds of like spiders type stuff, you know, like weird things, like chicken goes onto the field, stuff like that, you know.
Train leaves the station.
Right.
Curfew. Yeah. Curfew. So, but again, that shouldn't deter you from playing a game if you choose not to use the rare plays.
No, you're right.
My thing about that is every game is different, and I'm talking about a specific, not the game that you pull out, but every event that you try to do is different, and so for me, that's enough of a difference personally. But I mean, people like the rare plays, and again, there's no wrong way to play, but. So if you see something that has some pretty weird plays, and there people love them. I've seen for years, charts of 162 rare plays in a baseball game or something like that. Hey, if that's your jam, then go for it. But don't let that stop you. But again, most of the modern designers want to hear from you anyway. Thibault was pulling something out here.
I was from the 1908 replay rare plays.
Okay, he's got.
So I want to find some good ones on here. But
yeah, Thibault's going to find some rare plays. I just like I say that you're coming from a game that maybe doesn't have something like that, and then it opens up a whole new window of like crazy things that can happen while you're playing. And I just wonder how people would take to that, an old school player, if they would be welcoming that with open arms, or if that's a little bit too much for them. Because again, we talk about, this game doesn't do what my other game did. Well, that could be, it could be good and bad. It could be fun to try something different, or it could be frustrating because you're so used to having it a certain way.
I have learned to be okay with rain delays in my baseball games, but I draw the line at rainouts. Because a lot of what I do, especially online, is as play game. So they obviously got the game in. Not that I'm a stickler for using the same relievers and all that, but you're coming to see me for an hour. I'm going to give you an hour, and it's like, or you get me emotionally involved into whatever it is. Now, if it's a 15-0 blowout, okay, game over, good night, drive home safely. But you get a tie or something like that, and you roll the rain out. No, not even close. Sorry. And some people love it.
Yeah.
So did you find a?
I I did not. Right. I think there's a Dead Ball Decades rare playbook, which is in somewhere. I don't want to dig it up there. But,
your closet has become a butt of jokes on this show over the last.
Oh, I know. It's the cockpit. It's my fortress of solitude here. So.
Yes. but yeah. So this shouldn't. I mean, if it's implemented well in the game, it's part of it. And Dave's example of the say home run, that's pretty cool.
I thought it was, and some people did not think it was very cool.
One of the coolest things, rare plays I ever saw was actually one of those Greg Sovan games, which you're seeing a lot, that Field Day, Fall Classic, Play Ball, which they got a lot of play in recently. One was a catcher framing a pitch, which I thought was so cool. Like if it was like a top-rated catcher, he frames the pitch. Like if he's not a top-rated catcher, it's ball 4. Like that is like so cool. Like that catcher's ability to like sell the pitch to the umpire. I mean, if you want to get that granular with it, you know. So I thought that was great.
I like on the app Master where you're checking to see on drop throws. So if you nail somebody at the plate or at a base, there's still a small chance that player might drop it. I almost had a drop the other day where I think the column was I think it was I rolled a 541 or something like that, and if I had rolled a 641, it was the exact guy in the exact spot he would have dropped the ball. That's how close I came to a drop. So I thought that was fun. Talking about getting granular and nitpicky, I thought that was pretty cool.
There's some great rare plays. That rare play book and app that's an amazing piece of gaming. Like, cause like there's rare plays in there. You could play almost a whole lifetime and not see that rare play. There's so many of them on there. Like I've got a couple of them where like I had Robin Yount got kicked out for a cork bat of any player. You think Robin Yount like the he got booted for having a cork bat. They found a cork bat. He's out of the game.
Wow. What is a cork bat?
You drill it out and put cork in it. It lightens the bat.
Yeah.
Makes it easier to swing.
Really? So you drill out the end of the bat and fill it with cork, and then you fill it back in so that nobody can see it?
Right.
Interesting.
And then you can create your own like storylines and drama. Like this morning's game, Dennis Rasmussen, who's a pitcher for Ron will probably know for what team the
Padres, right?
Who's the 88 Dennis Rasmussen?
The Padres or the
your arch nemesis, the 88 Reds.
Oh God. I tried to block that out.
He's on first base. He got on base for a walk, and opposing pitcher picks him off. I think it was like Bob Nepper or something. And he got kicked out of the game for arguing with the umpire because he got picked off. Come on.
It happened.
I got one where this actually happened in Skeetersoft, and the pitcher was running the bases, and he went in hard with his spikes to the third baseman. Oh. And the third baseman punched him in the face, like the pitcher. And then Jackie Robinson came in from like shortstop, and he got in a fight with the guy, and he got ejected. So you get some fun stuff in those rare plays that like you never forget. Like I never forget that Robin Yount cork bat. Like, you'll never forget that stuff.
How do you think it goes over though with someone that's an old school player that's trying a newer game?
It depends. They like it. I think if someone like we mentioned Keith Russell earlier, like someone like him who's just after number data, they might think it's like a waste of their time. Like I want the data. I want the raw stats or the wins and losses. I don't care about this storyline stuff. But
I think it depends on how comfortable they are with the new game they're trying.
Yeah.
If you're struggling, let's say that, you're playing with, let's say, last year's Celtics or something like that in a basketball game, and you're struggling to understand the concept and all the 3-pointers and how it's different from whenever you followed basketball, and then you throw in a rare play like a tee for someone, it's just going to be aggravation. Then it becomes work. But if, let's say, here's one I had in Strat Hockey the other day, and I showed it to you, Dave. In 2 games in a row, I had, on that super advanced chart, I had matching majors, so a fight, and double minors on top of it. And so I had 2 games in a row where I had matching 9-minute penalties, which is something I'd never seen before, which is closest to a rare play as you're ever going to get in strat hockey. And if you were new to the sport, you go, what was that? Someone who's not a huge, hockey guy like Dave is, but, I've been playing these games for a long time. And you don't want to have a situation where you turn the player off. Right. If you're not familiar with what you're playing. But again, you're in that wheelhouse. If you're bringing out John Smith for the field goal here and you're swiping the snowblower through there, okay, you're going to be okay with that because you remember it as opposed to whatever it is. So I think, again, it comes down to, can the game give you enough of the experience that you're okay with even going further outside of your neighborhood?
Thibault brought up a good point about the story versus the stats. And I wonder if that's what's going on with, say, either some of these new games or even the Appa Master version where, the basic version, you play quick, you get your stats, and you're done. The Master game, it's more of a story. It's more of how did he get the third? Did he beat the throw? Was it a drop throw? Who was the runner? Was he fast enough? I know you get fast and slow and basic, but, everyone's got a different number. It's more fine-tuned. So I think with the Appa Master, you get more of a story. You still get the stats, but you get story along with it. Whereas in the basic game, you still get a story, but it's not quite as deep of a story.
Yeah, like for example, like a fielder role, like a third, say a bad third baseman. I think you mentioned this the other day, Dave. That bad third baseman can sometimes be like Brooks Robinson. If you roll a good number for him, and he could turn a double play, and you can imagine it like, oh, he made a good play, and he turned 2, and you'll get that. You'll get those little roles and stories within the game, so it's just fun.
I do like that, like I say, how everybody's kind of individualized in that, and you still got to check them, and sometimes it can change, and even a good player can maybe make a bad play. And that was the other thing that was missing, that even in Strat Basic, you had the error check, and I love the error checks. You don't want too many of them, but you still want that opportunity. I like in a game, and you know me, is that I like for anything to happen at any time. I want the worst guy to be able to hit a home run. He's in the major leagues. He should be able to hit a home run, I want the worst pitcher to be able to go, maybe not a no-hitter, but I want him to be able to go deep. Ron had that one in his game. Some guy that was never heard of went like 7 or 8 innings, and he was hoping to get 3, and that's what makes it kind of fun is that, holy cow, you're dancing around the dice rolls here, but the guy's hanging in there.
World Series clincher, Fred Sanford, in 1949, after all the "I'm coming, Elizabeth" jokes that you could possibly make, took a no-hitter in the 9th inning of a World Series clincher. You just never know. I think one of the things, because when I was talking with Jamie Marshall over last summer about when I did the interview, and story versus stats, when you play a cards and dice game, and if you're an old school player, all you have are the stats. That's your record, is your box score or whatever it is that you recorded. With this new generation of games, especially with the play games and the computer games and stuff, and as you've talked about with the Appa Master, you get a story along with it. It's part of it. It's not just Rice went 2 for 4, scored a run, and struck out 3 times. I mean, it's all there. But that, for a long time, was the only record that you have. You could create the story in your head with whatever the engine was. But that is so not the expectation. Look at all of Gary Brown's games, the Stone Cold Hockey and some of that. It's all about building a story. You get stats are kind of a sideline, but I think that's one of the big changes is the development of games that tell stories.
Definitely wrong.
So, all right. So any final thoughts before we wrap up here on this here? Ron, I'll start with you. Any final thoughts on, again, the question was, I've been playing this same game for a long time and I'm trying new games. How do I know I can trust these new games?
I think if you were to, see if there's a demo. If there isn't a demo, see if there's a video. To watch it. See if you think it's something that you might like. And, again, the developers want to hear from you, and maybe for cards in the next game, they might send you the directions and a couple sample teams for free before you. So, kind of like a, money back guarantee or whatever, or no worries, to see if you like it. You might find that you like it. Again, it's not going to be the game that that you've been playing forever. And again, you can always go back and play that game. You're not married to one game. So.
All righty, Thibault?
Yeah, I would say embrace like the learning of it. That's what I kind of like a lot. Like, for example, you showed me the Hockey Bones in Canton. I just embraced the learning aspect of that game. Like, just learning what these ratings meant and what was good and what was bad, how Hockey Bones, address things versus APA, how they address things. And I would just, for these new games, just enjoy the ride with it. And if you don't like it, like Ron said, a lot of them are demos for free or videos, and just enjoy it. It's a golden age, like we were saying.
Yeah, and I guess I would just add that, like Ron said, it's going to be different from the game you've been playing for a long time, and so you're going to have to give it some time and give it the time. Learn it, get used to it, realize that it's not the same game you played. You're not going to arrive at the same results the same way, but give it some time, and you might enjoy the variety of it. And as you know, I play a ton of games, and I play them all for different reasons. There's times I play APA hockey for certain reasons. There's times I play the same two teams in Hockey Bones for certain reasons. They're just a little different, and sometimes I want the APA experience, sometimes I want the Hockey Bones experience. And it's the same with any game I play. I come down here at night, what game do I want to play? I'm in the mood for this because it does this. I like how it does this. And then the next night I might be in the mood for something that does something different, and how you arrive on things. And, I guess I go back and forth between Strat and APA all the time. It's like I like the Strat Basic, but I like the APA Basic, Now I tried the APA Master. I kind of like that. So maybe I'll be trying the Strat, go back to the Strat Advance and see how that does. And they do different things. I like the charts with APA, but I also like getting results off the cards and Strats. And it all depends. And for me, I find that different games do different things. Like when I play football games, I was playing, second season and Solitaire Pro and even season ticket now. I was playing all those football games, and I like, and even the 49 quick decks from Grant. And I like the fact that I could roll dice or flip a card, and the play's called for me, and the defense is called for me, and I can be that guy with the beer in the stands watching the game and just enjoying it play out. But in some games, like, when I started playing APA football, I like calling my plays in that, which is very different from all the other games, which I don't want to call my plays.
Yeah.
And I can't explain it, but it just kind of works for me. So for me, I just play different games for different reasons. And so if you're trying a new game, you might like it. There might be one thing about that game. You're like, boy, I really like it. And that's what I'm going to look forward to playing tonight, just so I can play that particular feature of the game. And it might not be my favorite game, and it might not be a game I play all the time, but boy, I do like that. And it does it a little bit different than the game I've been playing all these years. And I think I want to give that a try tonight. So. But anyway, we want to hear from you, everybody out there that listens to the show. If you played one game for a long time and you've jumped into a new game, or just if you have jumped into a new game, do you trust it? How do you trust it? How long does it take? Walk us through your experience of trying something new, and did you like it? Did you go back to the old game? Again, we want to know. We want to know what you think. So anyway, let's wrap things up here. So this has been the Digital to Dice podcast, episode 251. We're talking about leaving the old neighborhood and trying some different games, especially some newer games. Ways to get a hold of us. digitaltodice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE is the text line. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. The 3 stars will be back next week, because when we have a guest on, we usually don't do the 3 stars. Our guest this week was Thibault.
Thanks, guys. It's always great to be with you guys.
Thanks for coming on tonight and talking about this subject here, and we'll have you back for sure. And I'm going to have you back too. We're going to have you and Jeff back once we get the technical difficulties work out. I just got to send another Campbell soup can over to your house there. We'll stretch that line nice and tight, and we'll have a good connection between here and Pittsburgh. How did the Steelers make out in the playoffs, by the way?
Oh, I don't know. I went to bed. Everybody knew that was going to happen too, But, the Rams are still in it. That's going to be fun to watch. So.
All right. Yeah. the wild card rounds are always the worst. They really are. They're just never close. I mean, that Washington-Tampa game, we knew that would be the best game of the weekend, but all the other ones were like, yeah.
To paraphrase Meatloaf, 5 out of the 6 were bad.
I'm actually afraid the Chiefs are going to win it again. That's going to. It's. I'm like fearing it right now. I'm like actually dreading the Super Bowl already.
It almost feels like the league's going to make sure they win, though. Yeah, right. That's what it feels like.
I so much don't want to believe all that referee talk, but we'll see.
Yeah, you don't want to. You don't want to.
I don't want to believe that.
So anyway, all right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya, everybody.